Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks. We are well into our second season now. I think we're up to episode 13 of season 2. Season 2 was kind of like a reset, just a good opportunity for me to draw a line under what I was doing before and what I'm doing now, though they are roughly similar. The idea was with season 2 it would be a more dedicated, focused view to Fab. That didn't really materialize the way I wanted to. But, you know, we are settling back into a rhythm. Weekly podcast style recordings, you know, in that vein. So we're going to talk. I mean, we just talk for about 20 or 30 minutes. This is your weekly Fab update where we talk about stuff that's going on with the goal of the channel has always been critical analysis, where critical analysis is required, taking the game not at face value, and talking about what's going on in the game and the decisions that LSS makes, how those impact the players, always from the perspective of the consumer, of the best choices for the consumer, for the player, the person buying into the game. That's always been the ethos of a channel, and it continues on. Now, why am I reminding people about that? Because a big discussion point for the podcast this week is the Kayo Deck. We have had the deck list or list of cards that are in that spoiled by someone who got a copy, and it is just worth acknowledging how we're approaching our discussion of the Kayo Deck, which is from the point of view of the consumer on a few different levels. First, we've got the level, of course, of your current Fab player who doesn't play Brute. Then, of course, you've got the layer of the Fab player who does play Brute, and then finally you've got the layer of the new player. Well, I guess there's probably the layer of the mid player who's thinking about getting into Brute, and then you've got the idea of this new player who's buying this as their first entry product. So, without further ado, let's just dive into the deck list. Let's just have a bit of a look at everything that's going on there, and we can kind of just run through the thing. So let's start off so it is KO. He's a new hero. He's well designed. He's quite fun. His ability, the +5. The 6 or more, and the plus 1 that makes 5s hit as 6s is very forgiving for new players. KO is a good choice for this deck. The equipment choice is good. You know, we've got 2 new pieces of equipment. This is basically a watered down legendary, and this is a kind of like a good alternative to Tunic. It doesn't give you value in long games, but it gives you value on one big Thoraput turn, which can be quite powerful. I know some people are already discussing that this might be something that gives Kano that oomph he needs to get through that turn, on that one turn in the game that he needs to win. Then let's just break down. So let's just look at something that's very, very important. So every single card in this deck is a hit for discard 6 or more attacks. Now that's really good because it not only solves a simple problem, which is you need to discard a 6 or more for stuff like Bare Fangs, for Wild Rides, all that kind of stuff. But it also solves a simpler problem as well, which is that it runs the risk of a Brute deck not feeling good. And this deck should feel good. When you play a discard of 6 or more, you will be hitting. That will feel very good for new players. And it also teaches new players how important those 6 cards are, because when they start to upgrade this deck, they're going to take out some of those cards to replace them with more expensive ones. And that is going to give them the hint and understanding, okay, but if I dilute it too much, when does it stop feeling good? So starting with all 6s at the start means that it's going to be feeling good from the start. And as they start to dilute it with other cards, then they're going to start to feel bad at some point. And that point is a learning point for them. So I think that's actually quite a good thing to have as a baseline. From then, of course, we have a lot of really good cards in this deck. Bare Fangs, both red and yellow, is great. Clash of Agility is good. Humble's good. Pulping is good. Wild Ride is good. These are all core staples. Agile Wind-Up, stuff like that. And it's also really good to see, WTR commons, which are, we'll say, awkward for new players to get, maybe, coming back in just as a 3 of here, especially they've picked the ones that people play. So while some people might play yellow pulping, it's not that common. You're much more likely to play red. You're going to play blue Wrecker Romp. So all that really does is just remove the burden on a new player of having to go and find pulpings, find Wild Rides, find Bare Fangs, find Wrecker Romps and Smash Instincts. Now, they're not hard to find, but that's not the point, right? The point is making things easy for the person to find. Overall, I think this, on the face of it, as a new player deck, ticks pretty much every box that I would want it to tick. It has vital cards from old sets that, you know, don't have to be expensive. They just have to be annoying for a new player to find. It has good synergy. It's playing, I would say, a good number of excellent cards in terms of Bare Fangs, Pulpings. And then it has a few Majestics to give you an idea of what the Majestics are, that have a bit of power, right? So we have Savage Beatdown, which is obviously a card you can play after you've played a card that discards 6 or more. You have to discard another random card. If it has 6 or more, it gets +6. So this is like your big setup trainer. This is like your big card that teaches new players that Brute is a setup class, because, you know, on the surface of it, it doesn't look like a setup class. It looks like an aggro class. But Savage Beatdown is there to teach you that Brute is actually a setup class, right? Because you're going to play Wild Ride into Savage Beatdown with a full hand, and then you're going to come in for 18 damage, and you're going to feel like you've broken the game. It's going to feel really good. So that's a good inclusion. Strength Rules All is in there as like to tell you that cards do more, right? So there's a few cards in here that are just in here to teach you that cards do more, as well as being quite good. Rally the Rearguard is in here to teach you about Dominate, because you're going to learn to use it when you can't block with an attack action. Humble is is in here along with Strength Rules Them All to teach you about on-hit effects. Wreak Havoc is here to teach you about defense reactions. Like, there's a lot of good choices in here as teaching cards, right? Like, Reincarnate is here to teach you that sometimes your discard effects are going to have more abilities. You've got a Beat Chest card in here to teach you about that. You've got cards that say, well, you can only play me if you've played a 6 to teach you about that restriction. You've got a Clash card to give you a taste of Clash to see if you'd like that more. You've got Agile Wind-Up to teach you that there are some cards you can discard to get an effect, right? There's lots of good choices in here from an education perspective that I really like. And also I like the choices of the equipment. You know, the legs give you an action point, the arms give you more power, the head gives you a kooky ability to do with card drawing, and the chest gives you resources. That teaches you the basis of Fab again. Now, what don't I like? Now, this is interesting, right? So Brian Gottlieb went on an interview. He said, obviously, there's some unique cards in there, but like, let's not forget the secondary market exists. So if you're an existing Brute player and you don't want to pay £40 for your Clash of Agilities and your Bare Fangs, you can just buy Savage Sash. You can buy Hide Tanner. You probably don't need it. You can buy Strength Rules Them All. You probably don't need it, right? Because, I mean, these aren't above rate for cards you can just play CNC and you'll do the same as this card, right? Or better, in fact. So, you know, some of these cards are downgrades, so that's fine. But let's talk about the fact that this is a short printed product, which means that the secondary market is also not going to have a lot available. Let's talk about the fact that several pro players I know have already pre-ordered this in stores because they want to make sure they have Savage Sash available for calling Warsaw, potentially Nationals. If KO is good, they're worried about availability, so they're taking the risk and punting the £35 or whatever just in case they need the cards to make sure they have them available, right? So there's those stores that are sold out on pre-orders because pro players have bought them in case they need them. Other LGSs I know, especially the ones that still have Savage Classic Battles on the shelves, haven't rushed out to buy this because they're like, why would I buy another Fab product? It's expensive and it doesn't sell. It sits on the shelf, right? So there has been a bit of pushback from, I would say, stores that I've seen not necessarily interested in buying this product. I'm not saying that's the norm. I'm just saying I have witnessed a bit of that, and I think that's, you know, just worth acknowledging. We really have to just ask the question, right? Because if you look at the price of every card in this set, now I think if we go here and we search for Savage Beatdown, I've looked up a few other cards, but if we search for Savage Beatdown, I'm sure we're going to find that it's just not worth that much. And I think we're probably not going to have a price for Strength Rules All yet, but let's just have an optimistic look. Yeah, so that's not priced yet. Okay, but if we look at the price of cards we know in this box, so things like Bare Fangs, Clash of Agility, Pulping, these are all like 0.3 pence, not really worth anything, right? They are worth something, and I know when Magic is doing its commander decks, like if we and you know, to be fair, so if we go to MTG Goldfish and we look at a viable comparison, which is Commander deck lists, they do include the price of every common, uncommon that sees reprint in their total deck list. So a lot of what we're seeing here is like 30p, 20p cards from older sets. They're not really worth a lot of money, but arguably they would add up. So if you took, you know, every card that wasn't a Majestic in this box, so -6 from 80, -6, we'll say -7, 8, 9. So 9 from that is 71. And if we do a quick calculator, you know, we do 71 times 0.31, you end up with £22. So if we think an average of 30p per card, you know, and the average being, you know, that, but even if we put it up to say 50, so let's be generous. So each card in this deck is worth 50p. That would put the average price of the deck at £35, right? So there is a bit of logic there that says we've grouped all these commons, uncommon, well, we've grouped all these commons and rares together for you. That is worth something. And if you think that each of those commons or rares is worth 30p, which I guess that's a fair estimate, then there's about £22 worth of value in those. So all you really need to get from the others is, you know, 20 quid, right? And then you've got a deck that's actually worth £40. I think it's important to acknowledge that that's like the industry standard methodology for pricing one of these supplemental sets, right? Is you don't just take the price of the most expensive cards. You do price all of the, you know, all of the little bits together, because those are different. Like those do take time, energy, and money to source for a new player, right? So that is like a full-on defense of the price of this product, that if you had to build this as a new player, you would have to find someone selling you, you know, WTR, you have to find someone with Monarch, find someone with Everfest, figure out what cards you wanted from them, bring that all together. That is not free, and it's important to acknowledge that is not free, okay? Then, of course, what Commander decks do is they add in a little bit of spice to bring up the value. And usually a Commander deck on release is aiming for the value of the box plus about $10. Though some go up to like 90, some go up to like $90 when the box costs 40. So, you know, there is a bit of, give and take there. And often the deck that people are buying is the one that has the most value. And it used to be, by the way, before Wizards got even worse than they are, it used to be the case that they would be aiming for $90 in reprint value. And then, of course, the price of those reprints would drop as Commander decks were a vehicle to control reprint price. And hold on to that notion of Armory decks as a vehicle to control the price of key cards, because we're going to come back to that in a minute when we talk about Swing Big. But let's just focus on that idea. So as a basic concept, you've got £22 in value in, you know, reprinted commons and rares, right? That's fine. Then we have to say, okay, so the reprinted Majestics have to bring £20 worth of value, okay, to make this a viable product. So we've got Savage Beatdown. It's currently, what, a 62p card, so that's not bringing it in. That's fine. That's about £1.50. Then I've got Swing Big here, but we're not going to focus on Swing Big right now. And then we've got these 4 cards that we haven't really priced. Okay, so we've got Hyde Tanner. This is worse in my mind than the Savage Gauntlet that we got in Heavy Hitters. So I don't personally see this being worth much value. My estimate would be maybe £1. Savage Sash could easily be a £5 or £6 card, because there will be a lot of people who don't want to spend £40 on the box but are willing to buy this. I don't imagine it rising up to like 10 or 15. I think people are still going to choose Tunic in a lot of cases. So I think this isn't not going to take its place, but I do think it's a valid and good option. So I could easily see that being worth £5 or £6, right? So we've got £1, £5 or £6, and then Strength Rules All is hard to price. In my mind, it's a worse CNC, right? But maybe you put it in as well as CNC to hurt like Ninja. If Ninja gets really good, it's quite good against them. Or it's quite good. Well, it's the only people it's really good against are Ninja, right? Because it specifies attack action. So it's an anti-Ninja tech card. If Zen is really good in the next set, this could be £2-3, maybe even £5. But I'm not predicting that. I'm predicting that people will keep CNC for their Arsenal hate, or Savage. What's the other one that we have? Not Smashing Performance. They're the other one that targets Arsenals that Brute got recently. I think people will play that. I don't think they'll play this. So I think that's worth £1. But then if you add that together, that's £1, that's £3, £4. Maybe this is £6. That's an extra £10 of value, which gets us up to maybe 24. Okay? So maybe 34 even, if we're being generous. That's not so bad, right? That's not so bad. Like in the UK, this product is breaking even. What I would say is that Fab can afford to be generous with this kind of product, okay? And let's talk about what that generosity looks like. It doesn't look like including Swing Big. I hate to say this, but firstly, their commitment to including 3 of every card is huge, and I love it. I would not want them to jeopardize that by trying to include one of Swing Big. They could, and it would be justified based on the price of Swing Big. Including 1 Swing Big in this would be justified. I'm just putting that out there. But you couldn't include 3, and I do like the fact that it's 3 of every card. I think that's really clean. So I'd understand putting in 1 Swing Big, but there's no way you're putting in 3. Okay? The only argument to put in 3 is if you're really unhappy. Look, I'm selling one of these for £26. We should probably just make that like 24 because I quite like it to sell. But my point is, there's only one real reason to include Swing Big, which is if you, as LSS, want to drastically reduce the price of Swing Big, then you could include it in a set like this, right? And that makes a lot of sense. So if you included Swing Big would probably fall to about £15. The value of this set would then become worth, would be worth about 70 quid, right? But it would be pretty good, right? It would be pretty good if you added all that together. The box product would be worth 70 quid, and you would have removed the biggest spending obstacle outside of legendaries to getting into Brute. I think not having Swing Big is a huge obstacle. I think it being worth £20 is too much. I am really keen for this to see a reprint. Even though I know there's a lot of Everfest out there, the problem is there just aren't that many good cards in Everfest to justify it. So I personally would have been rooting for a Swing Big reprint. And I think if you had reprinted Swing Big, I don't think you really would have had to touch the rest, right? We've already kind of broken down how the rest of the box is potentially worth around 30, 32, 33 pounds. If you add Swing Big, okay, that would theoretically make that price go up to 90, but obviously the price of Swing Big would drop in response to the fact that it was being reprinted, right? So, it would probably end up being worth somewhere around the 60, 70 pounds mark. Is that too generous? Does that just get these bought out by flippers? Maybe. Maybe it does. It probably does, to be fair. You need to choose something that isn't Swing Big. Swing Big is unfortunately something that needs to be reprinted in an expansion slot to greatly increase the market without being a product that can be scalped. Right, the only real solution for a card that's worth £20 is to see an actual reprint in a proper set. Now, obviously, they don't want to do that because there's loads of Everfest still kicking around, but I think Swing Big has reached the point where it probably does need a reprint because it's so good in Brute. Savage Beatdown's fine. It costs £3. What I really would have liked to see, genuinely, over and above reprinting something like Swing Big, because I understand that's not reasonable, is actually just a reprint of a couple more just £2 to £3 Brute Majestics, right? Not anything too complicated, not anything too expensive, but you could take something like No Fear as a good example. Now, I know this just came out in Heavy, so it's fairly recent, but there are a few other examples in Brute Majestics kicking around, or even non-Brute Majestics that are quite good. You take a card like No Fear, it's worth £2 to £3, you put in a playset. The value of this is so low, you're not really hurting any collectors who've bought a load of them. Really, all you're doing is being more generous without breaking the price point of the product. And also, more importantly, the problem with something like Swing Big is that scalpers would buy the product because Swing Big is worth so much. If you include like 3 extra No Fears or some Skull Cracks, or what other Brute Majestics have we got? just Massacre or Ready to Roll or something like KO, like things that aren't expensive. How expensive is Beast Within? That's the question. Well, they don't have it priced on there. Let's just have a look how expensive Beast Within is. £6. Okay, so Beast Within would be at the top of my curve. But my point is, if you find like 2 or 3 Brute Majestics that are worth £2 to £3, you include them. Like Bloodrush Bellow, that's not worth that much, is it? This is a key combo card, right? Every time you identify... Yeah, Bloodrush Bellow is worth £1.72. So you include a playset of Bloodrush Bellow and a playset of No Fear, for example. And all you're doing is taking that printed box price and you're just creeping it up slightly. So that every time you do that decision, the box price goes up £6. Sorry, the box price doesn't go up £6. The value of what's in the box goes up £6 until eventually you reach £10 to £15 over the box price, but not in stuff like Swing Big. Not in stuff that's going to be bought to be scalped, but like rare Majestics that are hard to move currently, but new players will find fun and interesting and be happy to get. That is genuinely what I would like. And they don't even have to be meta. And that's very important. They don't have to be meta. They just have to be more generous. And I think that is where I would go. And even if it was something like Cast Bones, I think Bloodrush Bellow is the obvious choice. And then I think you just have to kind of like tackle Swing Big and things like that. But that's kind of what they do in Magic, and I think that's kind of important, is you'll see that the rares that do end up getting included, Boros Charm costs $2, you get Blackcleave Cliffs cost $2, and then occasionally you get like a really expensive one that makes things stand out, but most of the time it's just being generous with the inclusion of a few more things just to be a little more generous. That's all I'm saying. Otherwise, it's a great product. And again, I've said it before, commons, rares are the life's blood of Flesh and Blood. They're often better than niche Majestics, so I don't really hate any choices in terms of not including Majestics, but I just like generosity justifying the £40 box price without making it scalpable by including stuff like Swing Big. Let's pivot now. I'm kind of done talking about that. ProQuest season happened. I went to another ProQuest. I made the top 8. It was a 19-person ProQuest, so it wasn't that hard to make the top 8 playing Victor. I lost twice in a row, both in the last round and in the first round of a top 8 to former national champion George Roger on Prism. It really does feel that in the hands of like a skilled Prism player, the matchup is almost unwinnable for Victor. You can just try and kill them. Sometimes that works. Sometimes they ALS lock you by playing two ALSs on the same turn, and you can't do anything about it because you can't break through 2 ALSs and kill a rebirth with time skippers, so you're kind of screwed. That's how it goes. That was my last ProQuest. There is another one near me next weekend, but I thought I was having surgery the day before. I've got a hole in my eardrum that is getting fixed, which is called a laryngeoplasty. I can't remember. Anyway, that's happening. So I didn't want to play in a ProQuest after my surgery. The surgery has now been moved. Great. But I refunded the ticket and didn't book in to play in the Armory. I am instead playing in a Star Wars Unlimited tournament that day because it's May the 4th. It's local. It's chill. I'm going to be playing Palpatine. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's just a thing. I probably just based on the budget, because I went to Japan in February and I went skiing over New Year's. I can't really afford to be going to a Pro Tour in Amsterdam. I can't afford to go to the world premiere of Mistveil as much as I would love to in Osaka. Or Worlds, unless I qualify and I'm really like on fire for Worlds. I'm probably not going to that either. I'm just having a bit of a frugal year. I'm, selling off a lot of cards to buy the cards I need from Mist. I'm divulging myself of board games and, just having a bit of a clear out, refresh budget year, where I'm saving more money and all that kind of stuff and being very frugal. So probably couldn't go to GPT Amsterdam unless I qualified and I was feeling like shit hot. I wouldn't go. I am going to UK Games Expo though, so if anyone's there, do come and say hi. I'll be playing board games, maybe a bit of Star Wars that weekend. Not much else. And generally having a good time with the game and obviously with myself. I've started I'd really this is the personal update, and then we're going to do a Fab Twitter review, because I've decided that I really want to start doing Fab Twitter reviews and see what people are saying about Fab on Twitter, and just having a bit of fun with that. Though obviously some of it is a bit tilted, but it's a good place to get the news, I think, of the week and talk about the latest things that are happening. But before we do that, so personal update is that I obviously did my ankle in really badly in January. Like really badly. I didn't break it, but I as good as broke it. I finished physio. The point, I had 8 weeks of physio, so I finished physio, and it was a while before I could even start physio. So I finished physio last week. My ankle is still in bits, so now I've started running again. I'm using the Couch to 5K app. That's why I'm dressed in, like, you probably can't see it, it's just a black t-shirt, but I'm in my running gear still, because before I recorded this, I went out for a run. I'm redoing the whole, basically I did Couch to 5K before, which is a really great app to get you into running, and I'm going to do Couch to 5K again, probably a bit faster this time, because I have the cardio, I have the leg, I have the muscle strength, I just don't have the ankle strength, so... But I think it'll be faster. And I'm going back to the gym. I'm going back to the gym tomorrow. My stats are, I usually squat 120 kg. I bench 90 to 100, though I'm trying to push that up. I do a lot of weight movement. I'm 175 centimeters, so I'm 5'9", I weigh 107 kg, so I'm technically overweight, but a lot of it, thankfully, is a bit of bulk. I'm not massively bulky, but I have a bit. And I'm hoping to get that back over the summer, next few months. So there'll be a little bit of this podcast dedicated to my fitness journey, because that, of course, affects my mental health, which then affects how much I'm able to enjoy Fab and engage with Fab from a more cerebral perspective. So I hope you like these updates. I think they're interesting. Just a little 2-minute segment where I talk about myself. The other thing I want to do is just talk through Twitter a bit, just see what's happening on Fab Twitter. Obviously, Flesh and Blood is tweeting. This is new, photoshopped into an alleyway in Tokyo. Streets in Tokyo do look a lot like this. Why she's in this particular alleyway, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of a racy alleyway, but, that's it. We have Brody Spurlock winning another Pro Quest. Not really that surprising, that the boy does need to learn how to play faster. This is like cool retro Bravo. Then we got these hints that there's a new preview for the next Armory deck coming out this week, and they've chosen the art for an Elemental Ranger card. It's not an Elemental Ranger card, but art-wise it is. It could very much be Lexi. Like, we could get a new Lexi. I was saying, like, would I be happy if they printed a new hero in an Armory deck? And I think I would, with one caveat, which is I would also like to see that hero in the expansion slot of the set that comes out near it. And I would also like to see no exclusive cards for that hero in that Armory deck. Now, that's a bit of a tall ask based on what we've seen from Kayo and, of course, from Classic Battles. But you can imagine a case where they bring out a short-printed Lexi Armory deck that has a new Lexi and new Lexi like specializations or ranger cards, and suddenly those are worth like 30, 40 pounds each, and they're bought out by all the existing players, and they're not around for new players, right? That would easily happen if they printed a new hero. But if they just did reprints of ranger cards, they printed Lexi, and then they also released Lexi in the Armory slot, in the expansion slot of the recent set, then really what you'd have is just a route to entry for new players, getting reprints, getting a good Armory deck, and you'd have a new Lexi. Maybe if it came out a week or two before, some people would buy the Armory deck instead of waiting for the set release. But most people would just wait for the set release, buy the expansion slot Lexi, and get it that way. And it probably, even if it was an expansion slot, probably would have a value of like £5 or £10, because expansion slot cards don't fall as often. You can see other sort of guesses. Dromai, Empress of Volcor, I guess. Some people want Betsy, and she's going to get some support. Olympia. I don't know. Like, I feel like I have a stance which I think is pro-consumer, which is let's stop having unique new cards in this deck, but I'm a realist as well. I understand that they do need to give some value. I would just prefer to see reprints of valuable cards instead of new cards that trying to derive value from new cards, because I think the existing cards have value. The value is known, so it's easier to understand if you're buying a good product. And also, like, there is an argument for reprinting these staples that have hit 15-20 pounds. Like, you can't just have them sitting there being, you know, adding a 75-pound investment to a deck. You know, it's not a lot for a competitive player, but it is a lot for other people. You see a lot of demands here, you know, Vincent, Betsy, Kasai, KO, Enigma, Phi. I don't think it's going to be any of those. I think based on this art, it's either going to be Azalea, it's going to be a Ranger, or it's going to be Lexi as an Elemental Ranger, or it's going to be something spicy like Briar or something like that. And it's all just bait, right? You know, there'll be a pun in here because Flesh and Blood have never missed the opportunity to make a pun. Predictive text, sure. Someone won a pro quest. Force person ever to break 6,000. Hey, let's give that a like. I think that's pretty good. These preview cards, by the way, Shadow Realm Horror, at its base, it's like a 2 for 6. Okay, not great. Hit 1 card, which you probably will. It's a 2 for 7. Good. Hit 2, you get Go Again, so it's basically a better Dread Screamer. And hit 3, you can play a card you banish, so it gives you the card that you're going to use the Go Again to play. And if one of these is in your banished zone, you could theoretically play another one of these. If you had enough resources, you could play 2. You could close the combat chain. You could loop these for the turn. Just putting that idea out there. This Eloquent Eulogy, potentially one of the best cards I've seen. So firstly, let's break it down. It's a 1-cost Rune Gate, which gives you something to play on a slow turn where you don't have that many rune chants. Fantastic card. Second is this. If a hero has lost life, create an Eloquence token. Eloquence tokens are incredibly good, and they're incredibly good to start your turn with. So you can imagine a turn where you block, say with a reduce the rune, no, where you block full block except for this card. You banish this card, that gets you a rune chant. You play this card for free, and then you have an Eloquence token, assuming they take damage. If they don't take damage, then you took a pitch for the rune chant, and you took 2 cards from their hand or a card and a piece of equipment. Late game, this card is fantastic. If they do take even 1 point of damage, then you get an Eloquence token, which of course that means next turn you're going to be able to do some shenanigans. You can either use Eloquence tokens to get yourself a load of action points, or you can just use it to give Go Again to like read the runes or Tome of Fiendal, and that's just going to be really, really good, right? Okay, so this is a really good card. It's potentially one of the strongest cards I've seen in a long time. This is brilliant, right? So we've got the standard, I'm beating my head against a wall, people make fun of me, and then eventually it cracks, and everyone's like, oh my god. And this is for Riptide mains, right? If you can't read it, I think this is brilliant. Like, this is very much what's happening. Riptide is starting to become good, and he does have a lot of good cards. So, you know, that's pretty good. Channel the Bleak Expanse. Yeah, that's pretty good. We missed that. That would be a good instant reaction. Oh, this is awesome. Have a look at this. Nitro Mechanoid, but with Max in. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's really cool, actually. Altars are really fun. I really like them. I only have 1 or 2, but they're really fun. Yeah, we agree with that. C rating on this list. Not too bad. Would have really loved LSS to put Blood Rush or Beast within. 30 blues is a little too much, and Blood Rush Bellows is penny for the dollar, but it really gives new player the power of Brute. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I really think you can agree with that. You know, those are cheap. It would have been easy wins. It would have made the deck more generous. Poor Hamish. He didn't make the ProQuest season. He tried. He just kept playing Bolton, or was he playing Viscera? I know he's playing Bolton, which is an all right choice, but not, you know, not always. Oh, wow. Okay, you can see this full Prism bling. We've got cold foils or gold foils of everything. We've got EA Empyrean Rapture. We've got a signed library cold foil. Genesis cold foils. Figment of Protection. I will call him out, though, because that deck doesn't just play Genesis foil. It also plays Merciful Retribution. It also plays Parable of Humility. It also plays a few other gold auras. and even maybe blue auras. So it doesn't seem like he has gotten there, but nice try. I'm sure you'll get there soon if you keep trying. What else has been said lately? Ooh. Blitz Flesh and Blood trial event, 3rd to 6th event format. Welcome Deck Blitz event. Very nice. This is the IRA Welcome Deck Blitz events. Let's see what our lovely people in Japan are saying. Although I'm disappointed the event has been cancelled. It's been cancelled. That's a shame. Okay, so they cancelled the Blitz pre-constructed. They haven't applied for some reason. And someone is saying it's okay because he's doing everything himself and he's too busy, but they're interested in Fab. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, you can't run every event, especially if you're a one-man shop. You kind of just have to go. Apparently there's been lots of Commander going on. But, you have to balance things. I'm still happy enough that this MTG shop in Japan is giving Fab a try. Yeah, it's good to see. I have a few Japanese people followed on my Twitter, so I do start to see, Japanese Flesh and Blood posts are starting to increase. You can see here as well, which is quite good. There is a volume of Japanese Flesh and Blood that is starting to build up, which is really exciting. And obviously they're awake now, so they're using the hashtag. See, Battle Hardened Valencia happened. That was exciting. Yeah, there we go. Play the game, see the world. Is that Starlet Castle? Yeah. Anyway, right, that's a bit of a Twitter review. There's not much happening now, but I imagine it'll heat up a bit. Just a few hot takes on the Armory deck and, lots of tweets in Japanese apparently this morning. So it's good to see the game is starting to pick up steam there. This is nice. Seems to be a lot of people remorseful about not winning a Stitch. That was the Lorcana thing. For qualifying for Amsterdam, you're more than your results. Do not tie your self-worth to a game. Be proud of how much you're improving. Eventually, can't wait to see you do it. Scott, Howling Minds. Howling Minds, always been a really positive voice in the community. Obviously, continuing to be a positive voice in the community. And then, of course, Scowling Fleshbag, who streams almost every evening during the week on Twitch. I very much encourage you to go and watch him on Twitch. He's one of the first, and I would say arguably the best people streaming Fab on Twitch at the moment. And when I say best, he doesn't win all the time, but I guarantee you he's more entertaining than half the people who are winning constantly. So if you want to go and watch someone enjoying playing Fab of an evening and also just having fun as a streamer, he's got game forfeits. When he loses games, he has to do push-ups. And when he wins games, he gets to open packs. He's got all this sort of fun stuff going that really gamifies your participation in terms of an audience for watching Fab online. So do go and watch him, at Scowling Fleshbag on Twitch. I think it's really fun. This is interesting. Dead Summer. Any content creators received info on the spoiler card yet? I have a feeling they're heavily culling the list of people to get one, as there are tons of cards being spoiled at events. I am not aware of this, but then I haven't had a spoiler card for 3 or 4 sets, so I don't assume I would get one. So I don't have an answer to that question, but it doesn't seem like anyone else who would normally get one, like Sloop, who has a load of followers, hasn't gotten one yet. So maybe people haven't been told yet. Maybe I will get one this time. That would be exciting. Yeah. All right, that's a bit of a Twitter review, bit of a new thing. Let me know if you liked it. As always, do like and subscribe to the episode. The view count continues to creep steadily up, and I am increasingly grateful that it keeps going up. We went over 1,500, partly fueled by my new monthly giveaway program. I'm giving away some of the £10 to £15 worth playmats that I have just sitting downstairs. But, people are also watching the videos, which I do appreciate. We do also have a Patreon. It is just for supporting the channel. If you like what I do and you would like to ease some of my money worries when it comes to events, stop me having to say, I can't go to Amsterdam because I'm having a frugal month. If enough people subscribed on the Patreon, I would be able to go to more events, just being honest. So if you want to see me at more Fab events, you like my content, you like my event reviews, then, support the Patreon, and I will keep you in the loop as to what I'm doing, where I'm going, how I'm feeling, and I'll take you out for a beer if I see you at an event. So, It's a pretty good trade. You subscribe to the Patreon, I buy you a beer, you make your money back. I think that's kind of worth it. Anyway, right, thank you all for listening to another weekly podcast. Great to speak to you all, and I will talk to you all very, very soon.